I'm with Dr. John Nelson, and we are on Boyd Island where three rivers come together. And John, this is an unusual situation, and there are certain things that happen here that don't happen in other places.
It's a complex situation involving a great deal of geology as well as biology. And what's really going on is that two major rivers in the state, the Saluda and the Broad, are flowing together very close by. You can hear the water forming the Congaree. So this is the absolute place where the Congaree River starts. And of course it flows down to where the Wateree River is, forming the Santee when those two streams come together.
And when we look out, we see a lot of rocks, and this is this the fall line?
This is the fall line, and it stretches from Virginia down to much farther west, Alabama, Mississippi. And what it is it marks the place at which there's no more exposed crystalline or granitic rock downstream.
Okay.
And this is also historically the place where boats coming from downstream would have to stop because it's just too hard to get barges and things farther upstream from where we are.
And are those little unique communities? Do things happen there that don't happen in other places?
There certainly are. There's wonderful communities out there comprised mostly of big boulders, some small boulders, but rocky places that have been exposed by the stream bed. And you can also find these in a band across the fall line. But what happens with these exposed rocks is that they form habitat for very specialized plants and animals. It being these shoals, you might imagine that during times of high water, there's lots of flooding going on, and rapid water has a way of dislodging anything that's trying to grow there. So sometimes the shoals themselves would have a certain amount of vegetation on them, and a month later it's all been washed away.
Whoa.
So you see that it's a very high energy kind of environment. Amanda, one of the most interesting plants in the world grows around these rivers coming together.
That's a pretty big statement.
I think it's very true. This plant is called Rocky Shoal Spider Lily, and it only occurs in about 12 populations in the world, stretching from our state over to Alabama. And it only occurs in these rocky shoals, these bouldery places in the middle of rivers. But what's about the adaptations of the spider lilies that make it work in habitats like that, and they have really tough, tenacious roots. Once they sprout from the seeds are able to lodge themselves
in some little crevice.
in cracks and crevices of the rock.
Okay.
And they love it. It's the only place they can grow.
Imagine being happy to be lodged in a crack or a crevice, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But that's an adaptation that lets them
Yeah.
stay. Yeah. Well, and then John, as we're here on Boyd Island, I think there's just such a mass of plant material.
There's
a lot of trees, and then
Amanda, I love my hometown. I'm going to start crying. But Columbia has got so many good things going for it, and this is one of the best. And I've never been here before. So I'm very excited about just looking around and seeing the diversity of stuff that's here. We have all sorts of characteristic plants of shoals, as I was saying, but also levees and floodplains along rivers, including sycamore is one of them. And then we'd have things like box elder,
yes,
which of course is really a maple. We learned that in our class.
Yes, we did.
And plenty of other things, including ash trees, including a number of maples that are native, including one that's called chalk maple, which you usually don't see too widely distributed, a very handsome tree. And we have plenty of groves here on the island of pawpaw, which everybody tends to love and enjoy, and a good many vines. This is a very good place to have vines.
Vinorama.
Vinorama, and you've probably seen some of the big old grapevines that are here, as well as bignonia, the cross vine, but also cow itch, remember that one?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really pretty one. Great big vines.
And smilax.
And smilax.
You're always going to run into that.
Several species of smilax, and You can't hardly get away from Smilex, can you?
And then you saw a couple of kind of, I guess, herbaceous plants too that were kind of fun.
And on the ground layer, there's still additionally a wide array of blooming things, and I expect that any time of the year, except for the dead of winter, there's going to be something out here blooming. So we saw down below, we saw what's called burr marigold, and we saw mist flower, and we saw a viney thing, a native cucumber with real spiny pods on it, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then we saw New York ironweed, which is gorgeous purple flowers, and we saw all sorts of different grasses, and you just can't go.
Goldenrod.
Goldenrod.
Yeah. I mean,
Plenty of goldenrod.
And a funny thing called ground cherry.
Ground cherry.
I mean, we just had a good time botanizing.
Yeah, it's been great. I got to come back.
Yeah. Well, and
bring my plant press.
Yeah, and it is open for people to come, and still being developed. It will have more light, and
That's
people
right.
are welcome. And I think the River Alliance and the Boyd Foundation.
I mean, it's just in its beginnings, I think. So much work has gone into developing this place, and I hope that the people of Columbia will really realize that, and understand that it could be one of our best attractions.
It's pretty special.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.